Hello, this is Marshall Zhukov, and here we are together again on YouTube. I know it's been a while since I've been on, just busy with stuff, but we got a little time here, got done early today, and got a little something in the mail today, actually. You can probably tell by now that it is a Tokarev pistol. As for what kind, you can tell right now that it's not Romanian. So we'll zoom in on the import mark a little bit. It's kind of big and ugly and right in the way of everything, but it happens, I guess. This is Yugoslavian M57 and 7.62 Tokarev. And this stuff is pretty neat. I've shot this cartridge before, but out of a CZ52. It's a little bottleneck cartridge. It's almost kind of like the 7.63 Mauser. And these suckers, they are pretty quick. They have some velocity behind them for being a pistol. So, I haven't done anything to it, haven't cleaned it or anything. We can see the grease and cosmolene on it. I am going to take it down and get it taken care of. So in order to field strip one of these, of course, we're going to make sure the firearm is clear. No mag, no rounds in it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull this retaining pin back. You can use a mag to do that. Of course, I don't have three hands, so we'll get her hooked on there, take it apart, and then when we remove that, we will push our slide stop out, and then the slide will come forward. So once we have our slide removed, we can kind of see that it's set up similarly to a 1911, and we'll be able to see that on the barrel as well. So we're going to have to rotate our barrel bushing here and take the spring out. So after we get our slide removed, it's kind of set up similarly to a 1911, and as much as the recoil spring. This one has a guide rod in it, but this guide rod has a joint right there and will actually bend up to assist in removal. So we will remove that, take the barrel bushing off, and remove the barrel and prepare for cleaning. The spring is contained as a unit when it's in the slide, and you will need maybe a screwdriver or something if you can't get it with your fingers to pry out and up, because it is under just a little bit of spring pressure, but it's not going to go winging off into the other room if you do happen to pop it out. In order to remove the barrel bushing, it has to be flipped up in this position. Any other position, it's not going to come out, but when it's pushed up like that, it will come out. And then in this case, since it's all cosmolened up, the barrel lugs were kind of just sucked and sticking into the grooves there just because of all the grease in it. But the barrel will have to be lifted out and then removed like so. Firing pin removal, you will have to depress the firing pin far enough so you can slide this small plate out, very similar to a 1911 again. The firing pin is a two-piece firing pin. The round piece around the actual middle, which is the actual firing pin, retains the larger spring. So both pieces have to be depressed at the same time in order to remove the retaining plate here out of the slide. Now there's a notch right here at the base. It's kind of hard to see, that actually fits right into the notch right there in the slide. So it's easy to put back, and it only goes back one way, so it can't be messed up. And we can see all the grease and cosmolene that's inside the pistol as well. In order to remove the grips, you have to go inside the frame with a screwdriver, and you have to move this little T lever here. The little tabs hold it to the frame. It's kind of hard to move just with your bare hand, but once it's moved over to this position, so when it's sitting on here, it comes on and off really easy when it's not in the fastened position. And this other one, the little lever just gets rotated and they'll come right off. I was actually able to fit the slide in this Gatorade bottle with the smaller parts, the barrel, the safety. The trigger is still in the gun, and the assembly with the hammer on it didn't fit in it either, and neither did the grips. So I will use some mineral spirits and a toothbrush. Just give them a good scrub. Same with the frame. I'll take the trigger group out and the magazine release, and probably put them in there, and just mineral spirits. It's old, but it works. Let it soak and give it a shake. Works out pretty good. We've got the magazine button removed, and it's an interesting design. It's a type of spring that retains it, and it's got this sleeve that it goes through. And right in there is where the pronged end goes through and is retained, and also the little spring, which helps hold it in place. So if you're going to remove it, basically you have to use something that will squeeze both sides at the same time, so you can push it through the small hole so it'll come out. And in order to remove the trigger when it's in there, the spring that's at the back of the frame will hold it forward. However, this spring here needs to be lifted. There's a notch that it sits in, so when it's lifted, the trigger can be pushed back all the way, and then it gets pushed down and is removed in that direction. Reinstallation is hopefully going to go easier than disassembly. In this case, I took everything out because of all the cosmolene that was in it. But reinstalling the trigger, that's real easy. You just push it back up through the frame. So you want to start, either push it up through the bottom or set it in here and then push it up through there. There's it's got basically its own guide that it sits in. And then make sure that the spring is also reinstalled. It's got a little lip on the spring. We can see where it goes around that pin. And that's how it's installed there. And it pushes up here on the top against it. It's kind of hard to see, but when the trigger is pulled, this spring is moved out of the way and it goes back, and you can feel the spring tension from that spring there. Reinstalling the magazine release button is easy. It's a two-piece setup. This is basically like the retainer that holds it in place. There's also a small spring on it, but you just take the take the mag button and push it through there, and it'll push right in and be good to go. Reinstallation of the firing pin is pretty tricky. If we look here, it's not perfectly round. At the bottom of the fire pin, you can see it's kind of almost an ovular shape, kind of in the shape of an oval, and it has to be lined up precisely, or else it's not going to push down to reinstall the plate that holds it in place. So you just have to kind of trial and error it and finagle it, and eventually it will go. And this is a large hole where the thumb safety goes. That'll push in there. Make sure it sits in there nice and firm. And then the rest of our hammer assembly will go in. And now it's just reinstalling the barrel recoil spring, the barrel bushing, and our slide stop, slide release. And we can see how shiny the barrel is after a quick little clean. It's almost too bright to see the lands and the grooves in it, but they are there. Nice, sharp looking, very shiny bore. Very nice. Another feature of this pistol is, as we can see, it's cocked. We can't deploy the trigger here because of our spring that is blocking it. It's got a magazine safety on it, essentially. When we saw that spring pop up when the magazine was put in, and there we go, and now it'll fire. So after everything's reinstalled, you put the pin back in place. After you've installed your slide stop, slide release, you're going to need to put the right side grip panel on first so you can access it from the left side with no panel on it. We're going to rotate our lever to hold it in place. And I like to use this Tetra gun grease. I use it on my Garand and it works real good. Just to keep everything greased, I put it on the slide and on the lugs on the barrel, and we'll see how it does. Hopefully soon there will be some shooting of this and maybe some additional dialogue to go along with it. So until then, that's a quick disassembly and reassembly for a first time cleaning of basically a curio and relic pistol. I got this one from J&G Sales. It's the Yugo M57 in the 7.62 by 25 Tokarev caliber, which is also very similar to the 7.63 Mauser. So until then, Marshall Zukov signing out.